Don't worry, I'm going to tell you what a Quibi is so you don't have to figure it out on your own.
That's it. That's my intro.
Hey, I'm Amanda and you're watching Swell Entertainment. I'm sure like me, you have all seen the advertisements for Quibi over the last couple of months. They've been pretty incessant. The one on a plane saying that we'll be landing in just a Quibi. The one with Chance the Rapper and the one with Sophie Turner. I believe there were more, but those are the ones that I saw just pushed at me constantly. I wasn't sure if I was going to download Quibi because originally I just figured it was going to be like every other streaming service, but then its whole marketing seems to focus on the fact that it's not every other streaming service, it only has original content and everything is 10 minutes or less. Quibi is the conjunction of the words quick and bite. Therefore, Quibi. Stupid. Quibi executives believe that there is a hole in the online streaming market, and that is mobile-only streaming. And you will not be able to watch any of the content on anything other than a phone or a tablet. If you ever tried a streaming service like Netflix or Hulu, etc., pretty much all of them have this little button that allows you to stream from your mobile device or your tablet to a TV. You can't do that with Quibi. Usually for something like this, I would show screen recording or screenshots, but for some reason Quibi decided it was a good idea to make it impossible to screenshot or screen record anything from Quibi while the app is running. The screen just turns black in the camera roll. What if I loved everything on here? I can't show that. You don't let me. I can't screenshot something from Survive and tweet it out with some head-ass caption like, this shot is amazing, it should be taught in every film class. You know how much revenue is accounted for from free marketing, from memes, every year? Millions of dollars. Now, obviously I'm making that up, but I'm also not wrong. You pre-ordered Quibi before the April 6th launch, then you got 90 days for free, and you got a couple of exclusive episodes for being a part of the pre-order, which I did. I believe I got a few extra episodes of Punk'd from Chance the Rapper, and a few extra episodes of Chrissy's Court, hosted by Chrissy Teigen. I'm gonna go into some of the good and the bad of some of the individual shows available on Quibi in a little bit, but first let's talk about why Quibi thinks they're being innovative. In Quibi, you can watch things in portrait mode or in landscape mode, and the actual view of what you're watching will shift based on how you have your phone turned, which actually, I will admit, in practice, for the most part, is done fairly seamlessly, and it does add a different edit for some of the shows, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But I don't know about you, I've never wanted to watch something in portrait mode. Usually if I'm watching something in portrait mode, it's because I'm watching a YouTube video and I want to scroll through possible videos or go through the comments. That's pretty much it. I never am like, wow, I wish this took up more of the screen. But that is pretty much Quibi's whole thing, is that it's designed for a phone or a tablet. I spent a good chunk of my day yesterday watching a good deal of these shows. Almost all of the shows that they had dropped on the 6th had at least 3 episodes available, but that was it. And then new episodes will be dropped every weekday. So every show that I saw yesterday had a new episode uploaded today, and then I believe 2 or 3 more shows were dropped on the platform today as well. The whole novelty of swapping between landscape and portrait mode kind of wears off after a while. I'm so used to watching things like this that I don't have a problem watching things like this. Does that make sense? I've never wanted to watch something like this, so why am I suddenly going to switch how I want to watch something to see a more zoomed in view of things? I keep wanting to call it Quip. Why do I want to call it Quip? It's not a fucking toothbrush. While I was using Quibi, I found the novelty of being able to switch the screen between landscape and portrait mode wore off very quickly. Pretty much when I would check out a new show, I would go back and forth a couple of times to see what they did with this shift, and then I'd get bored and stop doing that. And then I would always go back to landscape mode because this is how I'm comfortable watching things on my phone. For the most part, flipping your phone into portrait mode mostly just zoomed in. What I think was impressive was that it didn't sacrifice the quality of the video at all. For most of the shows, the sharpness of the image was never compromised regardless of how you flipped the image. Some of the shows just didn't seem to be formatted properly. For example, Murder House flipped. In some of the episodes when you go into portrait mode, the hosts are just a little bit out of frame, so you see like the back half of them when they're facing something. It's just not formatted the best. For me, being able to transition between portrait and landscape mode almost seamlessly would not be enough to just keep me excited about the app. The executives of Quibi wanted to make this the streaming service designed for the mobile device, but they also wanted to make this with a specific target in mind: millennials on the go. I'm not a millennial. I was born in '97, so I'm technically born in the who fucking knows years, but I think on paper I am a Gen Z, but I'm old enough that when people want to complain about millennials, I get loped in with them. But apparently Quibi wants their target demographic between the ages of 25 to 35, but they also think that it could be between 18 to 45. I'm 22, so you're stuck with me. But them targeting people on the go is why all of the episodes are a Quibi or less. None of the episodes on this app are longer than 10 minutes, and a good deal of them are not longer than 8 minutes. There's really not a lot of way for me to talk about the timing issues of the shows without me specifically talking about the contents of the shows. There's a chance that I'm going to spoil some of the shows, so you've been warned. So nothing on Quibi is longer than 10 minutes. Most of it isn't even at that. For some of the shows, this works out really well. Pretty much every episode of Punk'd utilized the limited time really well. There's the setup, there's the prank, and then there's the reveal. There's no filler. Some episodes of Punk'd do kind of feel like I'm watching a highlight reel from an actual TV show, like what you would find on YouTube, but it does kind of work for a show like Punk'd. Another show in this way that does not work is Chrissy's Court. Chrissy's Court doesn't fully seem to know what it wants to be. Is it scripted? Is it not? Is it comedy? Is it drama? Who knows? Chrissy's Court is literally the People's Court, but with Chrissy Teigen, and the court cases are supposedly real. Some of the cases for Chrissy's Court seem more conducive to something you'd see in like a marriage counseling situation than an actual court situation. I'm assuming what they did is they just kind of put out a casting call like, hey, do you have a qualm you want Chrissy Teigen to solve? Or they just looked for super stupid court cases that they knew were going to get thrown out. I felt like I had no idea what was going on half the time. Like, wait, what was the court case? Okay, wait, Chrissy Teigen's mom is making a joke. John Legend is now here. Again, all of these episodes are under 10 minutes, so there's not a lot of time to introduce the players in the case, explain the case, have them argue their case, and then have a judgment. I don't know why there's so much time spent just getting close-up reaction shots of people in the courtroom gallery. Most of it just kind of felt like a higher budget Lele Pons sketch. It was weird. There are a good deal of scripted shows on Quibi. The main ones that I'm going to talk about are When the Streetlights Go On, Survive, and Most Dangerous Game. So far, I like 2 of these 3 shows. When the Streetlights Come On is one of the shows that actually got me intrigued by the first episode. It's a murder mystery. It seems to be paced out really well in that I feel like I'm kind of just plowing through the chapters of a book. In the opening of the first episode, our narrator, Charlie, who is one of the main characters, talks about how he's looking back on the summer. Like, all of this is happening in the past tense from his narration. This is a future Charlie talking to us. But he's talking about the type of summer that he had, and in the end of that, he's like, and by the end of that summer, the Monroe sisters were both dead. And by the end of that episode, Chrissy Monroe is murdered alongside her teacher boyfriend. Her sister Becky is still alive. At this point, I'm on episode 3 and they still have no idea who killed Chrissy and her teacher boyfriend, and Becky is still alive, so I'm definitely intrigued. Another one of the shows that I believe that is using the limited time frame quite well is the show Survive, starring Sophie Turner. I'm gonna be honest, I think Sophie Turner is gorgeous. She seems like a really cool person that I would definitely want to party with, but I'm not the biggest fan of her acting. I don't think she's an incredible actress. But I was genuinely impressed by her acting in Survive. Survive focuses heavily on mental illness and the struggles that Sophie's character is going through. I do think they're handling it quite well, but be warned, there is a scene in the 3rd episode where she is preparing to take her own life. Like When the Streetlights Go On, a good deal of Survive is narrated by Sophie's character, Jane. And I don't know why that works in this format so well. I'm wondering if it's just because it really does bring back the concept of having a narrator in a chapter book, and that's why each chapter feels to have like its own start and end so succinctly. Again, another show I'm actually interested in seeing how it plays out. One of the scripted shows that hasn't hooked me at all, and I think it's clunky and I don't like it at all so far, is the show The Most Dangerous Game. And that's a lot coming from me because I love the concept of The Most Dangerous Game. The Most Dangerous Game was originally a story where a guy is shipwrecked, ends up on the island of an eccentric billionaire who's hunted every game in the world, and he's bored, and now he just likes hunting humans. Quibi has adapted that premise so that now Liam Hemsworth's character is dying from a tumor. There's no chance of operating on him. He will not live. He's going to die regardless of what he does. The reason the game is being offered to Liam is so he can get a shit ton of money to set up his wife and their unborn child for life after he's gone because they currently have no money. It's not like he's a bad actor. I'm just not invested at all. It's weird because it seems to know that it doesn't have that much time with how much exposition it tries to throw into some of the episodes, but also it feels like it's not utilizing the time at all. And like, we're on episode 3 and he still hasn't decided if he's going to do the game or not, and I'm bored. Probably watch another episode or 2 just to see if anything turns around, but I'm not excited about it. I'll talk about Murder House Flip real quick. I was actually really intrigued when I heard about the concept of Murder House Flip. There are those houses that exist in America where terrible things have happened, and a good deal of the time they are just completely demolished. and a bunch of other times they're not, and they're just kind of sat there until they were allowed to be sold. I believe in California, there is a law that states that you have to disclose if a death has happened in the house in the last 10 years or something. Episode 4 came out today, so I've watched all 4 episodes. The first 3 episodes were for one house, and then I'm assuming today's episode will be part of 3 more for the next house. The premise of the show is going to these houses where terrible things have happened and basically trying to renovate them to help the new owners basically feel at home in these houses, because a good deal of the time people don't find out until they've already sunk too much money into buying a new home, and it's not super easy to leave. The first 3 episodes focus on one house in Sacramento that belonged to Sacramento's most infamous serial killer, which I had never heard of, and I'm genuinely shocked. She was this old woman who would bring men in and then kill them and bury them in her yard, and she did this for years until they dug up 7 bodies on her property. It was hard to understand in the episode if the couple that bought this house knew before or after they had signed all the fucking paperwork, but they just seemed to be like, okay, like, this is our house. I love a lot of true crime shows and a lot of true crime podcasts, but I do think a lot of it is too focused on the killers themselves and not enough on the victims. And this show seemed to do the same thing, in that they were talking about like, oh, here's this crazy old lady and how she did this. She cut them up in this room, which is now the bedroom. And then we don't talk about that, but we're just going to completely redo this whole yard where the victims' bodies were, because we don't want to think about these bodies being here. And it's just weirdly detached. This was a human person, you know? And I understand if like the homeowners that now live there don't want to think about that and they just want to think of like, oh, here was this thing that was here. That's one thing. But when the designers who are now redoing everything are also just kind of thinking like, we don't need more body parts in here. I don't know, I just think that show could have handled it better. Another show I want to talk about is actually The Shape of Pasta, which just dropped today. And I don't know if they're going to be doing this with all of the shows, where when the shows drop, they drop the first 3 episodes and then 1 episode after that, because that's what happened with The Shape of Pasta today. I want to talk about it because I'm very intrigued, but also I'm like, this could have been handled better. The Shape of Pasta follows Chef Evan, who has a restaurant in LA, through Italy as he goes and tries to find rare shapes of pasta and how these pastas are made to try and bring them back into the US to try and keep the tradition of these rare types of pasta from Italy alive. The show is very interesting, and he does seem to very much enjoy finding these people who make these specialty types of pasta and giving them all the respect they deserve and having them teach him and showing the history of the pastas and showing the love and affection that goes into making these specialty types of pastas in these towns that they are specific to. Chef Evan seems completely genuine, but with the small time frame, it seems very rushed, because it goes from, here's this pasta I want to learn about, here's me learning how to make the pasta, cool, now I know the pasta, and then I promise I will bring this to the US and I will make sure that when I make this pasta and we pass on this pasta, that we will pass on the memories and the culture and attention that it comes with it. I believe he's being genuine, but the edit itself, in the timing of everything, especially watching it like in a binging way, does seem kind of disingenuous, because there's not a lot of time in between the concept, when in reality, he's there for days, hours, whatever. The zoom in on them making pasta, exciting. I love it. I really actually like Nikki Fresh. I think Nicole Richie is hilarious. The show itself feels kind of like a high budget web series, but it works out quite well. It almost brings like a nostalgic feeling to it somehow, but also each episode ends with just a ridiculous music video, which is very fun. The last show I want to talk about that's on Quibi right now is the show Fierce Queens, and it's a nature show talking about animals in the wild, and it's narrated by Reese Witherspoon. And I don't know how it works, but it kind of does. But it's very funny, and it almost takes me out, because she goes into that voice of narrating something like, and now the cheetahs have entered into adulthood. Once that footage is done, it goes to Reese Witherspoon sitting in a room, sitting in a chair, pretty dress on with her boobs looking amazing. And she's just like, how great were those fierce queens? And I don't know why I laugh every single time. Here's this light, airy narration voice. Fierce queens. It's so funny. Something else I wanted to say is that Quibi could not have dropped at a worse time, because we are in a global pandemic. I don't know how a pandemic is going to affect the app of Quibi, because there are people sitting at home doing nothing who will watch everything available in one day and then we'll probably get bored eventually and stop checking in for new episodes. I have no idea how long some of these shows are gonna go. I saw somewhere that it's like, oh, it's gonna be 10 to 12 chapters for each show. I know they've staggered things, so there probably is always going to be something on the site. I'm currently on a free trial with Quibi for 90 days, and then it's gonna be $4.99 with ads per month, or I believe $7.99 without ads. I just don't know how that's sustainable for Quibi. They were able to get a stupid amount of money from investors for this app. I don't know how long it's gonna take them to see anything resembling a profit. I'm actually wondering how the advertisements are working out, because all of the advertisements are mostly formatted for Quibi. Like, they can switch back and forth. The quality does shift here and there, but for the most part, they're all formatted for Quibi. And some of them even mention Quibi. Like, there was a Charmin ad that was like, yeah, let me wipe my ass in a Quibi or something like that. Are the advertisers paying less or paying more for doing that? Most streaming services do not start out with original content. They start out with having a catalog of other content that they've curated. And then eventually, once they've accumulated enough money and they're like, hey, we're gonna branch out into our original content and go from there. Quibi is skipping steps, and I don't know if that's gonna pay off for them in the long run, especially with the poor timing of a global pandemic. I know I already said this, but I wanna come back to it because I think it's so stupid that Quibi won't let people screenshot. Your shows could absolutely benefit from that.
Most streaming mobile apps no longer allow screenshotting, but as most of them are able to be accessed on a laptop, there are ways to get around that, whereas Quibi is limiting itself in this regard, again, by only being on a mobile device.
Overall, once my 90 days is up, I'm not gonna be subscribing to Quibi. Probably by the end of my 90-day trial, when the streetlights go on and Survive will be done with their current run. I will not be subscribing to Quibi after this. I don't think it's worth it. Again, the novelty of being able to switch my screen back and forth is interesting from a technical aspect for a bit, but the fact that I can't watch this with someone else, I can't share a scene with someone else, maybe in theory, Quibi was a good idea. I don't think it was, but maybe there are people out there who are constantly on the go, who don't actually watch shows, who only watch like 2-minute compilation videos on YouTube of a show. Maybe they would like Quibi, no problem. There are too many things about Quibi that in practice make it almost annoying for me that I will not be using Quibi in the future. That's gonna be it. Have you tried Quibi? Do you like Quibi? Do you think it's stupid? Do you think Quibi's a stupid name? Let me know. Comment down below. Shout out to my patrons. Thank you for supporting me on Patreon. If you'd also like to support me on Patreon, the link will be listed down below. If you'd like to follow me on all my social media, that'll be all up here, and that's going to be it. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely day. Wash your hands. Goodbye. Stop trying to make Quibi happen. It's not going to happen.
Thank you, Adam, Elise, Bradley, Cameron, Christopher, Chris, Colton, Dean, Dawn, Elliot, Aaron, Eugene, Feckless, George, Jason, Jesse, John M, John, Jonathan, Liam, Lalisa, Matthew, Nathaniel, Prylock, Stefan, Torben, Victor, William, Zendry.